Let's welcome the retail leaders to share their ambitious plan for growth, forging new partnership with innovative play and new brand launches. The positioning themselves as a leading omni-channel retailer by building companies' digital capabilities, omni-channel operations and online growth together with enhanced physical play. To discuss the visionary 2022, a conversation with retail stellars, let's invite on stage Rajesh Jain, the MD and CEO of Lacoste. Can we all have a round of applause as we welcome each of our dignitaries onto the dais? I take the pleasure next to welcome Mr. Johnson Varghese, who is the VP MD of Fossil India, to kindly join us onto the dais. Come on, audience, can we hear it loud for them? The energy seems to be super less. We're just starting. Next, I would like to welcome Nissan Joseph, the CEO of Metro Brands Ltd. Can we have the gentleman onto the dais, please? Come on, everybody, let's hear it loud. Next, we'd like to welcome Lalit Agarwal, the founder and MD of V-Mart Retail Limited. Can we have the gentleman onto the dais? Guys, the more you clap, the better the blood circulation. Come on, guys, good for you. Come on, keep that energy up. Next, we'd like to welcome Mr. Rahul Veera, the CEO of Skechers South Asia Private Limited. Followed by Mr. Sunil Nayak, the CEO of Reliance Jewels. And our moderator for this session is going to be Ms. Ritu Maria. So it's over to them.
So very good morning once again. And, we really indeed have a stellar CEO panel. This one I've really seen so many CEOs together all on the same stage. So big round of applause to them. I think the industry when 2020 hit, we were about 1 month away from doing IREC. The whole show was ready. It was supposed to happen in April and suddenly we were in a lockdown. So everything came to a standstill and I think all of you went through the same. And I think I must give it to you for bouncing back so strongly in 2022 when 2020 we didn't know where things were going to go. So please let's give them a big round of applause for showing the way to the industry and showing what resilience really is when it comes to retail, when it comes to understanding omni-channel and then executing it in real time. That's what our discussion is going to be today as to how retail has changed. I mean, I remember there was a moment in time when 2005, when modern retail was just starting to happen in India and there was so many changes happening in retail. I personally feel it's almost the same time once again. When we are seeing a completely different shade of retailing now emerging versus what we were used to prior to the pandemic. So that's what our discussion is going to be today. So I'm going to start with you, Rahul. Skechers, of course, I know that you have been thinking omni-channel, you've been thinking re-platforming back in 2019, which was actually much prior to the pandemic. So what is it that, you've experienced in terms of business changes that have taken place? Largely, what kind of organizational changes you've had to bring in order to achieve this, and to make sense of it? How far have you come after starting these changes in 2019?
I wish I had done those changes in 2019, and when the pandemic hit, we would have been ready. We were in the process of doing those changes and pandemic hit. And again, sitting on the drawing board trying to figure out how do we continue business, how do we ensure that the consumers are shopping at, once the lockdown was up. We had our digital platform. It was not designed to handle that kind of load. We were in the process, and then what it really made the difference that, those 2-3 months of lockdown and post that, the demand that came in was the acceleration that we had to take up the changes that we need to bring into our entire digital system, which also meant, rethinking some of the ways we were doing things. For example, we had at that point of time close to around 270 stores. Out of those 270 stores, a lot of the stores were linked up to our digital platform. Now, to ensure that the right inventory is visible to the consumer can place order, the order reaches the store on time, the store guy can deliver. A lot of those schematics, honestly, it's not easy. Because whatever you plan, okay, you would have looked at various scenarios. A lot of times, those scenarios don't work in the manner that they are supposed to work. The guy doesn't check it right. The system is not working fine. There is a internet problem, some or the other thing. And the thing that happens is the consumer is expecting, because they are used to some of the online environment that they are in, that same day delivery, 2-day delivery. So they kind of expect you also to do that. So a lot of those changes had to be made internally, where we had to align certain set of people. The stocks had to be aligned in a manner that it's visible to the consumer. It's a journey. We haven't done it yet. We're still learning every day. It's a process. There are new consumer challenges that come in. But one thing, what has changed in in the last 2 years is that when a consumer is doing the transaction or is willing to transact with you, they have done a good amount of research. That's something I think is happening very clearly. People are doing the research of the product that they want to buy, and based on that research, they kind of either walk into your store or buy it online. They know that it can be delivered to their residence or to their workplace, or they can come to the shop and enjoy the shopping environment. So I think the consumer has got more and more informed about what and how they want to do the transaction.
And more recently, you've also entered the metaverse. So, what kind of outcome is likely to be expected to be on metaverse, and what are you hoping to achieve out of it?
I think on the metaverse front, yes, it's the new buzzword. We'll have to wait a little longer to understand how it really translates over a period of time, because there are a lot of things that are happening on metaverse, and it's so evolving so fast that what you think of doing today, okay, probably by the time you actually implement, it might be history. So I think the metaverse is something that we should probably look over the next couple of years to understand how this whole thing translates. But it is exciting.
Yes, totally. I'm waiting for equipment first to really experience metaverse to happen. Let me come to you, Mr. Nissan. Of course, congratulations first of all on the IPO. Trying to achieve that big feat during the pandemic by itself talks scores about metro brands. More recently, I know you've embarked in a big way on a digital transformation journey. And what is it that you have sort of working on currently in terms of customer loyalty, in terms of understanding data a little bit more, and largely what is it that you're looking to achieve from the digital pathway that you've taken?
Well, I think the whole transformation and the transition from brick and mortar to online has been terrific for us. I know that sounds unusual for a brick and mortar retailer to say that, but the whole pandemic changed the internet from being a discount-led, cannibalistic model to more of a incremental model. So that was good for us because consumers started seeing internet as an option rather than trying to go just to the internet to find the best price. So that was a good transformation. In that process, what's happened is they're looking at us through many different lenses, right? Lenses of social media, lenses of e-commerce websites, and of course, the ultimate lens of our stores. But what we're trying to do now is look back at them. And this is where customer loyalty, this whole CRM platform becomes crucially important. And we're trying to see how we can get artificial intelligence and machine learning to play a role in that. And all of this has happened because technology has evolved quite rapidly. And I think customers are also more global in how they present themselves to you. So it's important to understand the customer journey across the different mediums because they are watching you in different mediums, and it's important that you in turn are watching them back, not in any way to invade their privacy, but to go for the second largest piece of the customer journey today, which is personalization. When I go to Netflix, I don't want to see movies that my wife watches. You know, I want to see the movies that I watch, which has a different flavor, as you might imagine. But the same expectation is with a customer when they have communication from a retailer. They want it personalized to them, otherwise it's just noise. So this whole digitization process is not just singular in the terms of, oh, e-commerce is big, Omni is big. Of course they're big. But it has changed the whole ecosystem on how we can communicate and interact with the customer.
Sure, absolutely. And, you know, the fact that, as you said, a physical retailer is going out there and proving it out that, you know, this is the way it is done, it says a lot over there. I'm going to come back to you. And Mr. Rajesh, of course, from Lacoste. You know, Lacoste has always been a very, I've noticed over the years when we experienced the brand, there is a lot of loyalty to it. So, you know, one might keep on buying different things, but, you know, if you're a Lacoste buyer, you'll come back and buy a Lacoste clothing. So, how is it that, you know, you now, of course, with digital, it's now possible to talk back to your customers. So, there's a two-way communication that happens. So, how is it that you are sort of capturing your customer data and ensuring that, you know, that loyalty that you've earned over so many years is now also equally alive on digital?
Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Ritu. Thanks for the interesting question. So, to answer your question, Ritu, I would like to take you a little back before the pandemic, when online and offline were sort of competing with each other for some time. However, during pandemic, what happened, that all the offline stores got shut. So the customers started shifting to online, and online, because of that, saw a serious growth. The growth was so much that even after the pandemic was over and the stores started reopening, the contribution of online sales for the whole year was a significant amount for all the offline retailers also. However, on the other hand, if we see, when the stores started opening, the customers started coming back. They started buying quite a lot from the offline stores also, because they wanted experience, they wanted to socialize, they wanted to eat out, they wanted to shop, they wanted to have entertainment in physical format. So now it's firmly established that online and offline are two beautiful channels of distribution, and customers want both. Now, if I talk about the customers taking it from here, what we experience is that there are two different sets of customers which are evolving now. Earlier, if we see the one set of customer that I'm talking about, earlier if we see, a lot of customers, when they used to retire, they would stop shopping, they would stop going out. However, given the current circumstances, when the life expectancy has gone up, the customers or the general people, they don't stop working even after their retirement. They continue to work because they have to sustain their lifestyle during this period even after retirement. And that has given a fresh set of customer base to the brands like us. On the other hand, we have millennials. Millennials, as Rahul also rightly said, those are the customers who have exposure to the internet, media, and because of that, they do a lot of research even before they decide to buy a particular brand or a particular product. After they have researched enough, that is when they decide whether they want to buy online or offline. That means they want an experience which is seamless between the two, whether it is online or offline, which has given a need for the brand to be available everywhere and visible everywhere. That means we have to make the experience seamless for the customer, whether he goes online and offline, and that is where omni-channel has come into play. Now this omni-channel, I would like to say that most of the brands, I would say, have converted into omni-channel already. Having said that, I would say that tech part of omni-channel has been taken care of to a great extent, where we are able to communicate to the customer in his language, and we as a brand believe in one brand, one voice. So we talk the same language to the customer, whether he is online or offline, or whether he is on in physical stores, whether he is on travel retail or city retail or MBO or EPO, etc. But there are certain challenges to omni-channel, which I would like to voice out here. So there are supply side challenges and there are demand side challenges also. When I talk about supply side challenges, I see one great negative point of omni-channel as of now. I would say that these are more of teething troubles. rather than the permanent problems. So if you see in omni-channel, one can buy anywhere, return anywhere, and can get it delivered anywhere. Unfortunately, what has happened then when you omnify the entire ecosystem, mapping the inventory and presenting the same brand to the customer is an easier part now. But the problem is that when you are fulfilling it from the brand or raising invoice from one particular space, but you're delivering it from some other space, the physical malls have started charging from both the places. Now this becomes a deterrent for the brands to omnify their entire system. Second part is the customer base, the customer that type of brand we cater to. Now in our case, once the customer has decided that whether he wants to buy online or offline, if he wants to wait, he would like to buy it online. But if he's not willing to wait and if he wants to go and buy offline, what they do is that they go there, they try out the product on them, and if they like it, they want to immediately own that product. They don't want to wait even for a day or even for a few hours to get that product home delivered to them. So this is a challenge that I think that our type of brands are facing right now. And third challenge is about the regulatory challenges, where as per GST law in the country as of now, if you want to return a product, you have to return it at the same place from where you bought it. Now this becomes a regulatory challenge. Having said that again, these are certain teething troubles, I believe, that going forward, I really doubt that these problems will also remain and these will get ironed out very fast. And omni-channel and multi-channel will become the future. In addition to these omni-channel and multi-channel, what I also believe in is that AI is going to play a very significant role once the technology matures in a market like India also. So these are the few things that I foresee for future. And I do hope that the brands will grow, the customer base is evolving, customers are evolving, their tastes, their preferences are completely changing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And these are, as you rightly said, are teething troubles, which will, of course, be there. And I think we had Mr. Koshi earlier, if he's still around, who's talking about ONDC, and which will virtually unify the whole digital commerce in the times to come, and all these problems will go away. So thank you very much for bringing that to light, Mr. Rajesh. Mr. Johnson, of course, Fossil, we always knew was a watches brand, but you have recently gone into wearables, and now that has become a very large category for you. And not just wearables being the smartwatch, but also it gives you so much access to customer data, really understanding intrinsically about the customer. So, for you, digitization has been two ways. It's been at the product level as well as at the retailing level that has happened. So how it has changed the business for you? What new lenses are you seeing the business totally when it comes to so much change in the business?
Thanks, Ritu. Well, that's interesting because the smartwatch business is something that we invested in all the way back in 2015. So as a company, we are the first watch company, so to speak, that actually got into the smartwatch business. All other players were outside of that industry. And we saw the opportunity largely because the portfolio of brands that we deal with essentially are oriented towards younger people. And I think as an organization, we realized that as people change, as our customers change and as they evolve, technology is going to be an integral part of what they want to buy into. So we invested in this smartwatch technology, so to speak, in 2015. So we were kind of early movers in the game and brought in smartwatches into India in 2016. Now, of course, as you know, it's a significant proportion of our business, not only for Fossil as a brand, but for some of the other portfolio brands that we have, like Emporio Armani, Armani Exchange, Michael Kors, and Skagen. These are all the brands that also have a smartwatch category attached. So it is very much an integral part of all of the business that we do today. When we got into this business, it was a new business, so to speak, but I think what we did, we realized that there are multiple ecosystems that come into play to make this a successful category. And what do I mean by that? Because there's technology, and we are not really a technology company at that point of time. So we said, how is it that we are going to be market players in this and market leaders in this game if we really are not abreast of all that technology. So we did that on 2 platforms. On one platform, we had acquired the technology as it were in 2015. But we also tied up with the largest in the world. So we have a partnership with Google in terms of our operating systems, which is Wear OS, and we also have a partnership with Qualcomm, one of the largest semiconductor players, IC players in the market. So that's where the technology comes from. And given the fact that they're world leaders in their game, we are able to keep abreast of all that technology. But having said that, we had invested in technology on our own. And if you realize in 2019, we actually sold back to Google a large part, some part of our technology business. So Google acquired that because we realized that there was a need to be abreast of technology and you needed to be at a scale to make that happen. So smartwatches are a very integral part of our growth strategy, as it were. We have that across the world, and India, of course, being a young market, we are pretty much ahead of the game compared to many of the other markets. So in terms of smartwatches, we are amongst the top 3 players for the Fossil Group in the world. So India is actually quite on the map in terms of that technology. How has that technology helped us to, kind of loop back into using technology to run our own businesses? Well, I think that's a platform and that's a journey that all companies are into. So we've been in the e-commerce space all the way from 2016. Again, early movers into that space. We realized that if you're dealing with, and all of this is essentially driven by consumers. So if your consumers are young, and India is a young country, 52% of the population is below the age of 30, and if your consumers are going to be young, you need to move ahead with them. So willy-nilly, it's something that we were tasked to do because our consumers made that move in the first instance. So as consumers got into the space, say we want the option of, as Rajesh spoke, an omniverse, so to speak. I need to buy anywhere, I need to be able to ship anywhere, I need to be able to return anywhere. So willy-nilly, we got into that business early. If you look at e-commerce now, it is a significant proportion of our business. So I think technology is something that drives the process, not only for Fossil as a company, I think all companies on this platform. Technology is a driver, it's an enabler for all the plans that you have. I mean, even if you're looking at offline retail as the core of your business, there is no way you can run that business without technology being an integral proportion of what you do. So we look out for technology that makes sense. We haven't really reached the point where AI is going to be a large part, but we believe that that's where it's going to be. But all the other technologies in terms of how to reach out to your customer, how to deliver products, how to make that whole experience, the entire journey, starting from the discovery process all till the time of purchase and even perhaps return, all of that needs to be technology driven. So I think we're all in the game, we're all learning. There's not a day that goes by that we are not really learning new things in the game. It's an evolving business, retail is. It no longer is, you have a formula that makes sense that will run across for the next 10 years. Your formula keeps changing and evolving as you go ahead. So I guess we're all learning in the same game.
Absolutely, the environment is a new environment every day. Mr. Lalit, let me ask you this about e-commerce. Now, value commerce is a very different proposition. You have to, where the pricing is so competitive, and then you have to work on the vagaries of delivery, and you have to work on the price, the service component, and the return component, which is also there in e-commerce and omni-channel digital. So, how is e-commerce different in value commerce versus, let's say, all other kinds of commerce that we see, high fashion or even for that matter, jewelry or watches? So how does the play differ over there? And I know there is a lot of talk going on value commerce. Snapdeal is talking about it. Flipkart is talking a lot about it. Meesho has been, doing social commerce. So how does the proposition vary?
Hi, good morning. So definitely value commerce doesn't only mean value e-commerce. So value commerce is providing value to the customer at every channel, at every end, and at every time. So it is definitely the most toughest, the toughest nut to get cracked, both from the physical as well as the digital side. So and still in this inflationary scenario, you need to keep building better value and more value to the customer, and also value for your own organization and for your ecosystem. So I think it is difficult, and because the average selling price of those products are lower, and that becomes a much more difficult proposition when you come up to that whole digital commerce or e-commerce mindset. So that's where the whole omni-channel or the multi-channel comes into picture and play. And we need to promote more and more physical outing and more physical, digital-led physical outing, where the digital customers can actually converge to the physical stores. That's the better approach that we will have to take, and that's what we are trying to do, and trying to use our store as the channel to one, lessen the kilometer that the vehicle is going to deliver the product to the customer, and also the speed and the time to the customer, as also Rajesh said.
Is micro fulfillment big for you in value commerce?
So that's what you have to do. To do that, we were not present in the southern India. So we acquired this brand called Unlimited here with Arvind. So now we are present across India. So now we've got 385 centers fulfilling those, the need of the customer wherever he is. So most of the time we try to do it physically, and that's what we want to do, and we want to grow that part, because we still feel that in India, having those physical format of stores like what we have a potentiality to reach to 1,000. So if we could have 1,000 stores there, and at least, this India, the southern India, at least have the potentiality to have 300 stores. So that is how you will, one, definitely give the experience, which is what fashion is all about: quality, aspiration, wearing, and giving that experience to the customer physically, and also try to meet those pieces digitally, both in the economical point of view, because economically it has to be affordable. You don't have those money like Meesho or Flipkart or Amazon would have. So in a real world, we don't have those kind of money to bleed in. And those people do have a large amount of money, and we all get carried away ki yahi karna hai, and this is what the world is. That's not the world, that's not the real world for us. We need to pinch ourselves and see what's the real world and how do we sustain.
Even they are all going in the physical space, so
So that's where we need to create that differentiating factor in trying to provide value, the real value. It's not just giving the photograph of that value, and the quality is very different. So it's not that whole, the game is, once the customer have used it multiple times, how does he then feel and experience value? So that's all. Value is not only cheap, value is actually providing better product, good product at a right cost. So that's what value should mean. It should not be looked at only cheap product at the cheap resources. So that's what the correction that I want to do. But yeah, largely we believe that, this particular customer, which is large part of Bharat, which is the large Bharat residents are, and that's the 70% of our population, who still earn between 1.5 lakh to 3 lakh rupees per annum. So that's the real target customer. And those customers have the opportunity to only buy few number of times, not multiple number of times in a year. They buy maybe 2 or 3 times in a year. They will still not want to experiment with those kind of investment, is what they call. They don't call it as a discretionary spend. So that's the investment that they do. So they will want to confirm their investment before they take decisions on buying that. So, and we need to provide those value, whether doing it digitally with the trust factor, the assurance factor, or physically. The assurance and trust has to be very important for that customer segment and for that particular product, which we are trying to sell.
No, I think very well said, sir. You're right that, there's so many shades to India, and one needs to be able to address different customers in the best possible way and sustainable way as well. So, Mr. Sunil, I'll ask you the same question that I asked everybody, that, is jewelry e-commerce different than regular e-commerce? Obviously, do you look at prepaid orders? Because, you're dealing with a precious item over here. So, and which is also very delicate, you don't want it to break. So how do you sort of deal or give customer service differently in e-commerce versus other categories, let's say fashion or food and grocery?
So, first of all, good morning, everyone. For jewelry, it's not something different, but it's something new for the jewelry industry. It's a typical traditional industry, and had pandemic not happened, I'm not too sure, including us, whether people would have been talking about e-com business. But let me bring you in the reality. I think starting from us, this has become a very, very important channel of distribution in today's world for many of us. And if I may just elaborate a little bit beyond this, because it is it's not only the e-com we are talking about, it's an omni-channel we are talking about. This is the industry where we sell the precious metal right from silver to gold to platinum to diamond. If I just give an example of a gold, a gram sold is about 5,000 rupee. It's a precious metal. It is not a necessity buying. It's bought with a lot of emotions.
Yes.
It's bought with emotions for adornment. It's bought during the festival season on various occasions. So to cater to this need, what we need to provide is easy and emotional buying. This is the category which generally gets sold by touch and feel more. But those are the days before pandemic. I think the world has changed. We are using we have started using e-com as a platform, not just as a e-com, but along with the omni-channel. There are a lot of tech we have added to the whole e-com trade. Right from the augmented reality to the video calling, it's not only online, it's online to offline, it's offline to online, it's offline to offline. So a lot of variant we have brought in. But for a sure, if I tell you in short, this channel has become very, very important for all of us. We ourselves as a company, we had no plan to launch e-com business till 2021 when this pandemic started and when we were given the mandate that this is the category which we should be very careful in opening our physical stores, looking at the various challenges involved in the pandemic. So we preponed our plan for the launch of e-com. Not only we preponed, we started looking at the variant. How do we make the whole channel very interesting? And that's where we started bringing in the technology to it. And we see today very smoothly operating, particularly to the age profile, which is between 18 and 45. If you see that profile, they are buying from us. May not be the bigger pieces, but for the day-to-day wear, for the gifting, I think it is becoming very, very popular now.
Absolutely. And you've introduced many new sub-product categories also.
As far as the Reliance Jewels is concerned, we started with those small products, but the moment we started bringing in that technology right from the augmented reality, we have gone into the bigger pieces also. We now sell up to the wedding category also through the e-com business. But it has become more or less omni-channel, not necessarily that the customer orders from the websites and they get it.
Sure. No. And I think, so, one question I have to both you and Mr. Johnson is that, globally we are seeing that whenever there is a high margin product or a luxury product, there is a lot of use of crypto. Have you also started adopting it?
As far as we are concerned, we are not into the crypto.
Absolutely not at this point of time. I think there's a lot of hype and hoopla about crypto. Let's wait for the dust to settle down. We'll figure out where it fits in as an integral part of the business, whether it makes commercial sense, whether people trust and value that as a methodology of payment or as a methodology of doing business. I think for us, it's a wait and watch game. This is true not only for crypto, it's true for a lot of technologies that come in. I think it's easy to get lost in the process if you try to absorb every technology that comes its way. What we would like to do is that we have a business to run. We've got to make sure that it is viable and valuable for the business. Look at that technology, see how it's going to make an impact, and finally evaluate it from the consumer's point of view. Does it make sense for the consumer? Is that consumer hooked onto it? Is that consumer actually going to use that in whichever is the process that we want, either as a payment process or as a purchase process? And that's where we will go forward. I think that's the lodestone. Look at what the consumers are doing before we take that plunge. I think that's what we will call for.
Sure. No, what I was asking is that 10% of the world's crypto investor is in India. So 18 to 25 of the bitcoins are actually 18 to 25 year owners. 10% of them they are sitting in India. So they're buying from outside India.
Actually, that's what I wanted to add. I think there are a lot of speculation around this. I personally have not been able to understand the intrinsic value of the cryptocurrency. So that's a big question mark. And plus, when you talk about India per se, I think again, as Lalit rightly said, it's speculative. Second, there are no clear regulatory or legal guidelines around it. We don't even know that how long it will survive, whether it will survive at all. So those are the major challenges in crypto in any case.
Yeah, indeed, that is certainly there.
There's one stat that I read a few days ago. I should have known it earlier. But I think if you earn more than 2 lakhs per annum, you're in the top 10% of the income strata in India. From this point of view, that's a crazy stat. I mean, we are looking at a world, we believe that all of India is the same, but that's a fact. If you earn more than 2 lakhs per annum, you're already in the top 10%. So I think we have a long way to go, speculation aside, in terms of what we should do for value systems, what we should do in terms of providing value to our consumers.
I know, incidentally, I was at the Skechers stores in Miami, and one could buy shoes there paying through crypto. So it's different things happening in different parts of the world. Happy to take some questions from the audience also, but in the meantime, I'm going to sort of ask, yeah, okay, sure, please go on. Can we give the mic to the lady?
Firstly, thank you so much. It was so interesting listening to all of your views and everything. I'm Shreya, so I'm from Customer Loyalty and... Can you hear me now?
Louder.
Hello?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, go on.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Shreya Namani from a customer loyalty and engagement platform, Frugal. So it was pretty interesting for me to listen all your point of views and understand where exactly your brands are doing in terms of customer loyalty. So based on that, one topic that came up was Gen Z customers, who are a lot of percentage of the customers. So we believe at Frugal that lifestyle-based loyalty is something that's going to be future. It's important to recognize the customer's lifestyle, and based on that, the brand needs to come up with strategies, implementation. So I was wondering, how are you thinking about that, and what are your perspectives on that? Thank you very much.
Is it directed to somebody in particular?
Okay, thank you, Shreya. So when you talk about Gen Z customer, what so far we have seen is that their liking and disliking about the product itself has completely changed. Now they want more experience rather than buying the products. However, and when they want to go for experience and invest money behind experiences, then the products probably do not count much on their entire ecosystem or their radar. However, if they're going for a product, but so far we have experienced is it's not the product per se that they want differentiation. Of course, that comes through innovation, and all the brands and retailers are doing innovation to attract the Gen Z, millennials and baby boomers, all of them. However, what has changed for Gen Z and millennials is the way they want to buy. They don't want necessarily to go for a physical store. They would like to buy it either online or through omni-channel, etc. And that's where I think most of the brands and retailers are investing their time, money, and energy behind these things. So this is what we have experienced so far, at least from the Gen Z perspective.
I want to add one point to that. I think, as with all other consumers, one element is that of personalization, and I think we spoke about that earlier. In the watch business, we have a process in the store where we can actually personalize each watch. We can have a little message on the back of the watch. And surprisingly, nearly every single customer, more than 80% of our customers actually want that personalization. They're willing to spend the next 10 minutes to 15 minutes in the store getting a very personal message engraved on the back of the watch, because invariably the watch is bought with some occasion in mind, whatever would be the occasion. So I think personalization is a very important aspect of what young people are looking for, along with the experience. So it adds to that total experience, the consumer experience that they're looking for. That's one. And from a brand perspective, you spoke in terms of, would you look at the lifestyle of the consumer before actually shaping your brand? I think the brands actually add to a lifestyle expectation that a consumer has. So why would they buy into a brand? Because they buy into the lifestyle that that brand denotes. So I think it's a question of having the right brand for the consumer, and I think that's where the affinity comes from. I don't know if you're going to shape in a short term, I don't know if you're going to shape the brand values in any form to the consumer. I think we want to make sure that the consumers are attracted to the brand that is relevant for that consumer by presenting that brand in the best possible manner.
Sure. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for an interesting panel discussion, first of all. And I'm the co-founder of MPS Style Club. We are into personalized lifestyle solution. What I would like to ask you guys I understand we do a lot of personalization as Sir was discussing. So I would like to know to what extent we are able to personalize the experiences as well as the curation for the client. And what is that maximum extent, you have taken the personalization to some level, if any one of you can share, which is something that would like to hear.
So I'll talk from the jewelry perspective. I think this is the category with a lot of emotions, as I just said. Lot of personalization gets involved here. The simplest example is to talk about the customer order. I think even though the customer may like a set of say bangles, they may ask you to personalize it. In what way? Maybe through a message on a jewelry, maybe add his own ideas to add some stones into it or remove into it, maybe change the size of it, maybe increase the thickness of it. I think these are various things which a jeweler can offer to its customers. That's number one. Number two, it's not only on the product, but the experience itself can be personalized. Like a customer may come with his wife to give a surprise to her on a birthday. As a jeweler, we do celebrate the marriage anniversaries and birthdays on those occasions. So these are various ways in which we personalize experience to the individual customers.
I think personalization is changing rapidly, right? So when you look at the frequent flyer industry as an example, if you recognize that I flew with you frequently, that was just enough, right? And then it became, well, you got to recognize me as a gold traveler. And then it became, you got to give me first class upgrades, right? The journey of personalization is different by generation group. So what my mom would expect in personalization is different from what I would expect from what my kids would expect. That's number one. I don't think there's a one size fits all. I also think there's a very careful line between you assuming some things about a customer when they come in for personalization, but ultimately it is delivering something that they didn't think of they wanted themselves, right? So that is the magic of personalization. So if I go to a website or walk into a store and that person is able to personalize something for me that I didn't even think of, that's true personalization. And to get to that level, it's tricky. It's really tricky. But I also believe with all the technology we have out there, all the points of data that we have on a customer, and the cohort groups that you can form between loyalty customer bases that you have, you can almost predict what one person wants based off a cohort group. You're going to have some failure rates. So I think the experience is not about, how do I get a birthday mailer out to you? It's about curating that experience based off the data that you're seeing. And I think that's how Gen Z wants to be interacted with too. You look at the feeds that they're shown, you look at how they get interacted with, it's very much curated, but it is off a cohort group. And it's their actions into that group, and it's how cohorts like them behave out there. And I think that's the new level of personalization that data and technology are going to allow us to do.
Sure. We'll take one last question from this.
Hi, everyone.
There's so many.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abhay. I come from ZS Associates. It's a consulting firm. And my question is to Mr. Rajesh. You spoke about multi-channel, omni-channel, and how to integrate everything together. I was in another summit recently, and somebody mentioned a stat that on an average about, all the retailers like yourself, on an average, they're using about 44 to 40 plus systems end-to-end to deliver everything from finance to personalization, to the delivery supply chain, everything put together. There are 44 partners you're working with, roughly. My question to you, sir, is as you see that things become more omni-channel, things become more streamlined, sir spoke about personalization. What is your advice to some of these partners? Are you looking for them to innovate in terms of the tech they bring, or change the way of functioning completely altogether? And the second part of this question is, as India progresses ahead, is there a market that we can mimic? I know we are very unique in our own terms, but is there a market we can mimic, and some of these solution providers can pick up some of the learning from there and bring it here?
See, I'm not very clear about the question. But what I understand is that you're saying that we are using multi-partner approach, multi-platform. So I think that, okay, multi-platform is extremely important in my view because the customer wants to see your brand at the right places. Of course, we are talking about RTG. We are not saying that we will be everywhere. However, it's extremely important for a customer that wherever he or she goes, he sees the right type of brand that they want to get in. So ecosystem, if you're talking about that, how do we deal with the multi-partners and approach?
My question is, what is your advice to those vendors who are supporting the retailers and...
Okay, so extremely important, I think, and actually you have hit the nail. Let me tell you currently what is happening that all these partners, they are working practically in a silo. They reach out to most of the retailers or the brands individually offering their services only. I am yet to find anybody who collaborates amongst themselves and presents a bouquet so that one is able to speak to one partner who can offer different multiple solutions. Once that happens, I think this will be a great opportunity for all the brands and the retailers to take higher steps toward technology enablement for all their platforms, linking all the platforms. The way I said that we talk about one brand, one voice. Similarly, there should be one platform where the technology partners get together and they present one partner talking different technology, but in the same voice. So that is an extremely important point is what I would say.
I have a slightly counterpoint to that. I think that's great. What he's saying is right. That would be wonderful from our side to get, but the reality is technology moves so fast. By the time I pull together 5 vendors and come up with an integration plan and come up with an integration scheme, it's over. I mean, I think our chairman says technology has the lifespan of a banana, right? You look the other way, the darn thing is rotten. So while what Rajesh is saying is wonderful, I think today's world, it's about finding your niche and being really good, but not trying to be better than somebody that's already in that space, but trying to do something totally differently than has been done in that space. I mean, you look at Apple. They've done it in a physical product, right? It was products that really never existed, right? The iPhone didn't exist when they kicked it off, and the iPod didn't exist. A million songs in one little thing. Think of something that changes the technology, that makes people want to use you in their ecosystem, rather than trying to build a whole ecosystem. I would love it if, as Rajesh said, if all of you had one darn ecosystem we could tap into. It's not going to happen in my lifetime.
I think I want to add to that. I think it's a...
Sorry. Yeah, please, Johnson, please go ahead. Okay, so just to add, so I completely agree with what Johnson says. So I'm certainly not suggesting that there should not be any technology upgradation or technology changes. I'm saying there should be one voice that comes and that talks to us so that we are able to integrate. The way we are integrating our multi-channels, similarly, if there is an integration of all the partners who are able to take care of those technological enablement, this will be a great help, is what I would say. Technology advancement will certainly keep on happening.
I think there are two sides to this coin. From the vendor's side, there's going to be a plethora of vendors who come up with new technology. And I think each of them are specialists in their own area. So you can't say that, hold up your innovation till you have a common platform. That's not going to happen. Each person is going to move forward at the pace, hopefully at a more combative pace, so that they're able to get more technology on the ground. So that part is going to happen. What you're essentially talking about is interoperability, the ability to use multiple technologies onto a common platform. So I think there it's a function of evolution. And as time moves forward, more and more technologies will realize that they can't operate in a silo system, as Rajesh said. They need to make sure that there is a front-facing which allows them to interconnect with any other technology. And a case in point here I want to talk about is the payment systems that we have. Today in India, I think last year, 2021, 38 billion electronic transactions happened just in one area, which is just payments. If you compare that 38 billion payment system, which is across the entire gamut of not only everybody sitting on this stage, but everybody who's in business in India today uses those payment systems. Against this 38 billion in India, I think in China they had about 20 billion, and in the US they had about 2.5 billion. So when you look at it, just in the area of payments, we are like 10 times ahead of anybody else in the world. So is it possible? It is possible. Is it happening? It's happening in bits and pieces. But I think as we go forward, all technology solution providers will realize that they need to incorporate in their systems and interoperability capability, that they can integrate with everybody else onto some platform. So it's going to happen. It's a question of which technology, where, and how soon, but it will happen.
So, I've been already queued on the time. So, one final word from your side on, what is it that one practice that has changed in your business that you feel has been really valuable during these last 2 years and will continue to remain so in times to come. So let me start with you, Rahul.
There are multiple things that have changed, but I think one thing which, largely we used to work that, we used to be in office all the time. I think that collaborative way of working, that anybody, anywhere can collaborate and work, I think that mindset has changed, and I think that will continue for a while. I see that happening quite often. Teams are sitting across the country and we are collaborating and working. Otherwise, we used to fly them down and have that. So I think that a little bit of change has come in for sure.
I think the most exciting thing has been getting more intimate with the customer. Just data, technology has enabled us in the last few years to get much more intimate knowledge and visibility and a two-way interaction with the customer.
I think, Ritu, as Rahul also rightly said and Nissan also said to a great extent, that serious changes have taken place in the last 4 to 5 years. The way the customer shops, their preferences, their choices, almost everything has completely changed. I would like to emphasize on what has not changed, and which is, I think in our case, it's the brand DNA. The brand DNA has not changed. We still believe in freedom of movement for all our products across the categories. We still believe in innovation, and that has helped us to continue to become a brand of choice. And in fact, that's true for most of the brands here and outside also. That the brand DNAs have not changed. The way people shop, the way we offer that shopping, that has completely undergone a change in the last 2 to 3 years.
It's very difficult to put it into one word, but I think COVID's been one of those, once in a blue moon occasions where I think everybody's had to revise pretty much everything about their own businesses. So if you look at it, consumers have changed, the technology has changed, the business has changed in so many ways. If you were to just look at two things that come to my mind, one is the seamlessness in terms of consumers' expectation. They expect a seamless operation wherever they are. So your business channels need to be seamless to allow for this operation to happen. I think that's an expectation from the consumer's mind, seamlessness. From a technology point of view, there's a lot quicker absorption of technology thanks to this instant dose of COVID that we've all had to face with. So I think technology is moved much faster than it would normally have moved. And I think Sunil's brought that point across, how even for an operation which is a high value operation like jewelry, how technology, you have to leapfrog and get into a whole technology space. So I think technology will move faster as a consequence.
Yeah, for me, I think what will not change is the right to access for a good product. And that's the right that everyone has. And I think digitalization should become an enabler to make it much more available to the right audience. And digital uses and the transformation in the adoption of digitalization should become much more better for corporate like us and people like us. We do believe there are a lot of suppliers and a lot of ecosystem which provide digital inputs, but adoption of those digitalization and making it to use to create the larger betterment for the ecosystem is going to be sustainable, and that's what we need to focus more on.
I think I can just sum it up. I'm sure all my colleagues on this dais will agree that it's very surprised that we can have 2 successful financial years in a business without attending an office. I think it's a pleasant surprise.
Very well wrapped up. So thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And of course, the new practices in place will certainly make business much more viable. And you know, you're right, you don't even have to step out of the house to be profitable these days.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all the panelists. I request Ritu Maria to honor each of our panelists with a memento. Thank you so much to all the panelists.